It was a sunny day in Dunwin. King Gregor was felt outburned of all of his royal duties for the past few days, so he decided to take his horse and ride in the woods for a few hours to just clear his mind, to just to clear his mind so that he can go back to rule in his kingdom. When he announces to his most top knight, Sir Tuxford, Tuxford insisted that he would go along with his king. But Gregor was firm that he would just go alone. But since Tuxford is this top knight of the Dunwin, he still was very much consistent of going with him. But Gregor was firm once again, telling Tuxford to stay behind at the castle to look after it, especially his daughter Calla. And he also told Tuxford that he wouldn't be gone that long. He would only be gone for at least a few hours. He will be back before sunset. So, Tuxford agreed. Gregor changed to more regular clothes and took his horse and rode outside the castle. And even though his daughter saw this when he left, she was very concerned if her father should have any bodyguards with him just in case if something would happen. But Tuxford ensured Calla that Gregor was a skilled fighter and he was a very smart man and he would know exactly how to handle any sort of situation. So for the next several hours, King Gregor rode around in the woods by himself, and he thought all about his childhood and all kinds of things that he remembers. It happened that he even thought about if Calla would have been a good queen. But he assured himself that under his guidance, she will be a good queen as he has been a good king to his people. And as he was just sitting on his horse, riding slowly through the woods, just clear his mind, thought of all the past few years' events, suddenly a bee stinged his horse from behind, and it made it panic. The horse just suddenly took off, running through the woods, as Gregor tried to stop. But it was much too late. As the horse was running so fast, suddenly it abruptly stopped. In front of them was this very much pouring river. It was moving at such fast speed, and it was like a strong current. But as the horse just suddenly erupted, stopped in front of the river, King Gregor was thrown off the horse, and he flew right in the river. And as that happened, he hit his head against a rock, and he passed out. And he was swept away by the current in the river, and the horse just ran off and in another direction. King Gregor, he was just in the river just by himself, floating around, but he was floated probably in the river for maybe almost 2 hours. Then he was swept up on the light side of the river in a short distance away from that. And then he managed to wake up. Well, he regained consciousness, but only for a brief moment before he passed out again. He managed to crawl up on the part more deep, further in the land in the woods, and then passed out again. When he once again regained consciousness, it was pitch black outside. It was middle of the night, apparently. He sat up and he said to himself, "Where am I? Who am I?" It turned out that impact against the rock with his head had made him lose his memory. entirely. He didn't even know his own name or who he even were. So he sat there in the dark and he was very puzzled who he actually had been, or where he was even located, or how he even end up in that place in the first place. So he stood up, even though he felt weak in his legs, but he managed to stand up, walk through the woods, and he didn't know exactly where to go. So he just walked and walked and walked until he noticed there was a small cottage in the woods. He walked up to this place and knocked on the door, even though it was middle in the night. He heard a voice of a woman inside. Wait a minute. Then the doors opened, and there she stood. A young woman. Yes? How can I help you? And you noticed the middle of the night, don't you? She was actually at first heard nothing, and then you heard a voice like, I'm sorry if I disturb you in the middle of this late. I don't know where I am, or who I am. She first believed that this was just some sort of trick, but somehow she could actually somehow sense the honesty in the voice of the man. So she let him inside. She lit some candles and even prepared some small leftovers of her dinner. She told him that her name is Trina. She even asked him what his name was. But he didn't even know exactly what his name were and she asked him how or where he's from, but he said he doesn't even remember. And since he didn't even remember his own name, and she asked him where he was from, or what's the last he remembers. The last that he remembered, he told her that he woke up next to a river, and she knew exactly which river he mentioned. Well, she knows about it, but she had never actually been there since she explained she is blind. So she didn't know exactly what else to say, and Gregor, well, since he didn't even remember his name, she decided to give him a name just so that it would be easier to call him. So she thought about the name William. Gregor, well, now accepted the name William was something that he actually accepted. But around the same time when this happened, when Gregor never returned to the castle around sunset, he had actually no idea what happened. Toxford was getting worried. He has sent out all of his knights and even on some of the citizens of the castle who was willing to help to look for the king. But no matter where they searched, they didn't find him. But it wasn't until almost towards evening or next morning, but they found his horse. They found his horse not far from the river, but so they extended search in that area. Kala was beyond horrified that her father was missing. Even Toxford felt almost betrayed that he should have gone with King Gregor. But even if Gregor told him not to, he felt he should have done it in secret. Maybe he could have prevented this from happening. But despite how much they searched in the woods after Gregor, they found nothing. Even Kala and Kevin, her friend, had asked their friends, the gummy bears, well, since they were only two ones that they knew about them directly, and asked if they could explore part of the woods after her father. They promised to do so. But despite their efforts, there were no signs of anywhere of him. And it went days for all this after this event, but he just vanished. Everyone in the kingdom searched for him for a couple of days, but since no one actually found no trace, It was like he had just disappeared in the middle of nowhere. But at the time, Gregor, now known as William, actually had decided to stay with Trina, at least until he knows who he actually is and if his memory came back. But as the day went and weeks passed, still no signs of any of his memories. Trina and Gregor, now William, had actually started a good friendship. He helped her around when she needed help with something, and it turned out he was quite skilled in handiwork, buildings like that, and she was very much gratitude for that. But over time, just barely after 3 weeks of being staying there, William and Trina had actually started building a relationship with each other. And Trina loved William without knowing who Gregor actually were. Turned out that she never actually seen the king since she was blind, and she never heard his voice, so she wouldn't even have known. Even if she had heard Gregor's voice before, it's possible that she may had actually figured out who he is, but she hasn't. And for all of those few weeks that him been staying there and they were being in a relationship, William actually felt happy for once. But one day, when he was in the small workshop behind the cottage, he had a small accident. He had something fall on his head quite hard enough, and he was unconscious for a couple of minutes. It was then everything came back to him. He had regained all his memories, and he realized who he was and what happened. When Trina came to the workshop to look for him, asked, "William, are you okay in there? I heard it is flood in here." "William? I'm sorry, but my name is not William." She then realized that he had regained all his memories again. "Wait, did that flood happen to hit on your head or something?" And he actually said yes, and then he asked who she is. He may have forgot some of the new memories that he had gained when all the ones that came back to him. She explained that her name was Trina. Then she asked what his name was. His name was Gregor. He was a king of Dunwin. She was stunned. She had been in a relationship with the king of the kingdom. She felt almost, well, not ashamed, but she felt shocked. But then suddenly he remembers the time he spent with her as William, and his feelings for her hasn't even changed. They actually went back inside in the cottage where they had discussions on what to do. She told him that he should go back to the castle because that is his duty. But after he realized that he wanted to stay with her instead, to live as a simple man. But then, she had another thing that she told him that was much quite important. What about his daughter, Calla, and the kingdom? She realized after what he told her about his own daughter, Trina said that Calla is only like 12 or 13 years old, and she is way too young for ruling the kingdom on her own. She had to be at least a few years older in order to take over the throne, but even so, she may not be the main good ruler otherwise, she said. Even though that Gregor understood what she meant, because without his guidance, without his influence, she may not be a good ruler at all. And who will be ruling the kingdom until she is old enough? It was a hard decision to make, but Gregor decided to leave, and he told her that he will always love her and always remember the good times they had together, and even gave her a kiss before he left. She was crying, but she realized that he has a point. Since he was the ruler of the kingdom, another thing that they should, there were another thing that they should even consider of, he was king of royal blood. Trina was just a simple farmer. The society would not have accepted the king to marry a farmer girl. So they decided to put the things behind them and move on. When the King Gregor returned to the castle, the whole castle was so shocked to see him just walk in. And everyone, especially Toxper, who was so stunned to have learned that his king was alive, but wondered where in the world he has been for the past few weeks. He explained that he actually had been in the woods. Someone actually took care of him, but he had lost his memories for those few weeks. There was only not today when he regained them again, and now he's back. When the people ask who had been looking after him, he declined on not to be saying who it was actually were, since he didn't want her to be disturbed by anyone. So no one actually knew that was Trina. When Kala found out her father was back, she was overjoyed. She was really happy. She was so worried about her father's being gone. But despite this, it was where things in his life was now go back to normal. About a week later, at the cottage, Trina got a visit from her friend Tommy. Even though Tommy was a gummy bear, but Trina didn't even knew that he was a gummy bear. They were just talking, and when she mentioned that about this new visitor she had for a couple of weeks, and when he was told it was King Gregor, and how they were in a relationship for a short time before he regained his memories, Tommy was stunned. Because the others of his friends had to find out that he was okay, that he came back, but Tommy was the only one who even knew about this. But he promised not to mention this to anyone, which he never did. But despite this, the relationship between Trina and Gregor may have been short, but the feelings for each other remain strong. And especially Gregor. Even shortly after all of this, it's sometimes when he sat on the throne or when he was in his own bedroom, he couldn't stop looking at the front window, or even thinking of Trina. His love for her was so strong, and he decided to have Toxford and 2 knights to go get her. She was stunned that the 3 knights showed up at her cottage. She first worried that she was now arrested by something, but she was told she was not a prisoner, but she was a guest to the castle. Now she knows that was Gregor had summoned her. When she came to the castle, she asked him why she was there in the first place. Well, it turned out he had some things that he needed to talk to her about. So they start talking in more privately. He told her that despite they having been apart from each other for so long and that their relationship was now over, but he was still deeply in love with her. He had still a chance to say that he could just step down as a king and put up a council to rule the kingdom until his daughter is old enough to take over the throne, so that he could live with Trina as a simple man. Even though that Trina herself was not much happy about this idea, But she could actually sense, even hear that how serious he were in his voice, but also he he felt happy now she was back there. He asked her if she wanted to stay with him, to restart the relationship once again. But she mentioned one other thing that she did tell him. They couldn't be together. How did society to even look at him? Because he's royal blood. He's a part of the royal family. She's a farmer. How would the society would even accept that? Because she knows only noble blood can marry someone in the royal family or under royal, not farmers. But Gregor said that he didn't even care as long as both of them are happy. And, well, it he allowed her to stay at the castle overnight so that she could think about it at least. But the next day, she actually had an answer. She thought about this on the whole night. She decided she wanted to be with him, despite what had happened, what was going to be happen about for how the kingdom would react. So, by the same day, both Gregor and Trina was excited, but also nervous. But when he told to the kingdom, or at least the people of the castle, he had an announcement. Dear people of Dunwyn, I, King Gregor, had an announcement. I have found my true love. The people of Dunwyn was really excited for the king to have found a queen. But when he had made another announcement that when the people asked where she was from, if she was a noble or royal, when she was introduced to Trina, some of the people actually somehow knew about her, but others was just like, wait, she's a farmer? And you want to marry her? He actually did have proposed to her just before the announcement. She had said yes though, and Kala knew about it as well. He told the people that, yes, she's a farmer, but my feelings for her are pure. To be the matter of fact, she was the one who took care of me when I had lost my memories. She took care of me. She deserved the same kindness, respect, as I have given all of you. She gave me her kindness, her generosity, without asking for anything back. But I do love her. I was even prepared to step down as a king, to be with her. That stunned the people, but I really are accepting her as my queen. No matter what people will say, he said. Trina will be my queen. You should respect the same choices as I have. I love her, regardless of her background. If it was a farmer, noblewoman, or a princess, or a queen, I love her. The queen, or it is a population that this castle actually accepted her. And for the next several weeks, in fact, they actually prepared the wedding. And it actually happened. Kala was the maid of honor to Trina. Tuxford became Gregor's best man. And it was just a great wedding. They actually went to Gregor's friend John Claude, who's actually owned his own kingdom out across the ocean in France, where he had their honeymoon for about a week. During the time, Tuxford, along with a few other advisors, took care of the castle, and it just happy. Then, 2 years later, Gregor and Trina made the announcement they wanted to have a family of their own. And in fact, they later found out they were expecting twins. Both were quite surprised. So, they were excited. And then the day came when the twins were born. The first daughter was named Alice. Alice was like her mother. She was born blind, but she was beautiful. Her mother taught her how to find around things at the castle and other things. She actually enjoyed and even adored her older half-sister, Calla. She loved it. But along with a lot of things, Alice would eventually find a prince of a nearby, a next-door kingdom, and they actually got married after being together for about 5 years. And they later have two daughters and one son of their own together. Their second twin daughter was named Marion. Marion was very like her mother as well, but she was not born blind. She was a very outgoing girl. She was like Calla. She loved adventures. She loved to be brave, and in fact, Calla taught her how to defend herself if something would eventually come up with that. And she found out the secret of her older sister had. The gummy bears were real, but she kept the promise herself too. At one point, she even fell in love with another prince. They got married and even had two daughters and one son of their own together. 3 years later, they even had another daughter which they named Margaret. Margaret was a little bit outgoing like her older sister Marion, but she was like her mother. Gentle, peaceful, but she loved adventures, but most of all loved to read. She even loved to spend time with her older sister Calla and her best friend Sunny. She loved to spend time with the gummy bears, and she could even have been happy to have those as a friends. And one day, she even fell in love with a duke, and they even got married at some point, even had two daughters and two sons of their own. After being married and have found their true love, Gregor couldn't have been happier. After being alone for so long, he was just happy he had found his true love within Trina. Trina, though, after being shown the same respect, kindness, generosity from the people and as her beloved Gregor, she couldn't be happier. She actually loved Gregor. She even loved Calla as if she was her own daughter. And even Calla, she loved Trina. She treated her as she was her own mother. Despite being blind, it didn't even was an obstacle. She started like just as part of herself. After that Calla was 20 years old, she took over the throne. Gregor and Trina moved out to the cottage that they had maintained over the years, and this is how Gregor and Trina found a true love, got a big family together. The end.